back to Just Energy Radio with Dr. Rita Louise.
Hello and welcome back to Just Energy Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Rita Louise, and thank you for staying tuned to the second hour of the show. In this hour, we're going to be speaking with Lon Milo Duquette about magic and the occult, and a little bit about his new book, Homemade Magic: The Musings and Mischief of a Do-It-Yourself Magus. So he's a DIY guy. I didn't know you could DIY magic.
That's the only thing you can do.
No, you're supposed to be quiet till I introduce you.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me.
Okay. Wait, Just Energy Radio is brought to you by SoulHealer.com, where you can find out about all the products and services I offer. And if you want to learn to become a medical intuitive, energy medicine practitioner, or intuitive counselor, all of the training programs are on sale right now, back to school, at the Institute of Applied Energetics. That's AppliedEnergeticsInstitute.com. All right, so now I'm going to tell you a little bit about Lon Milo Duquette, and we'll bring him on the air, even though he's already been back on already. See, and now he's laughing. Singer-songwriter and recording artist Lon Milo Duquette is also the author of 16 critically acclaimed books on magic and the occult. Critics have called him one of the most respected and entertaining writers and lecturers in the field of the Western mystery traditions. Again, his new book is Homemade Magic: The Musings and Mischief of a DIY Magus, and his webpage is londuquette.com. Please welcome Lon Milo Duquette. Hey, dude, how's it going?
Well, here I am again. Yes.
Hey, you're again. I know your energy was just so big that it filtered through the ethers and made it onto the airwaves while you were muted on your end, right?
I know I spill over a lot. So
So today we're going to be talking about magic and the occult, but I want to focus on the magic part because we've never talked about that. And you identify yourself as practicing magic. Now, I'm assuming we're not going to be talking about pulling rabbits out of hats. So for the listeners, what do you mean with the concept of magic?
Technically, and most basically, magic is just causing change to occur in conformity with your will. So like Deepak Chopra and Wayne Dyer would call magic the power of intent. But more specifically, magic as it's practiced sort of in Western civilization deals with harnessing your own and focusing your own energies and intent to bring about changes in your own life that should be of an evolutionary and enlightening. Well, you should use it to evolve yourself rather than to. You don't. You can use magic to have your girlfriend fall in love with you, or the girl next door fall in love with you. But the thing is, if she doesn't want to fall in love with you, there's really not much you can do with magic. The only thing you can actually change with magic is yourself. So it's a spiritual art form. It's a Western spiritual art form, and it takes on the trappings, the art form trappings of magicians who conjure spirits and in a very ceremonially focused way attempt to make these changes in their life.
And so doing spells is not part of it? You know, you were mentioning the love potion.
Well, spells.
Well, spells, I mean, I'm meaning like really in the doing a love potion. I mean, you go online and there are people that will sell you a love potion. So do they not work? Should you save your money?
No, it's not. I can't tell whether somebody's the things are going to work for you or not. Just everything, including legitimate medicine, is just a placebo anyway. So the magician actually works with consciousness as a real, live, tangible force. And the ancient magicians, their techniques where they would conjure spirits and such to do certain things for them and contact what they would consider spirits or other intelligences or angels or demons to run off and run errands for them. In a sense, is just dealing with your own inner metaphors. In the same way as the psychologist, Carl Jung would treat archetypal things that we're all sort of hardwired with. Magic, as an art form, it's very beautiful. It usually magic in the Western tradition utilizes colorful costumes, clothing. The magician alters their sense of perception, alters their consciousness by use of songs, poetry, conjurations to actually affect changes in their levels of consciousness. And it's in a way it's tinkering with your own inner magical tools to like give yourself a tune-up.
Is there a correlation between what you're talking about and, let's say, the law of attraction, or could the law of attraction be a subset of what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could you perhaps expand on that for us, please?
No, absolutely. The law of attraction is magic, pure and simple, and magic, incorporates the law of attraction in a lot of things. If all of these great magicians of the past would have had at their disposal the language and the vocabulary of quantum physics, of today's quantum physics, they would have a much more, if not totally understandable, at least a much more rational sounding explanation for what it is that they're doing. We know that a person's attention can affect what they're looking at. This idea of in quantum physics, where the behavior of a particle, sometimes it acts as a particle, sometimes it acts as a wave. Okay, and it all depends on whether you're looking at it or not. So in other words, even if you and I were in the same room together, me looking at you and you looking at me is changing the equation of our reality. Okay, so if just our own focus and intent could have such profound, fundamental impact on the nature of reality, how much more so could a focused, fine-tuned intent accomplish in your life? And magicians have been for centuries have been working, experimenting with different ways of tinkering with their own powers of focus and intent, and in such a way as to make it a full-blown art form, as much as music is an art form, as much as sculpture and painting is an art form. No two artists work alike, and no two magicians work alike, and no two people work alike. But what they do have in common, or at least in a big general sense, magicians have this one spiritual art form in common. The same way as yogis have yoga in common, even though every yogi practices it just a little bit different. Just the same way that martial artists, they're disciplined in the same way or similar ways, but each martial master is their own artist. The same thing is true with magic or any spiritual discipline that you would do. The great 20th century magician was, of course, Aleister Crowley. And he was a wild and crazy Englishman. He died in 1947. But he is the guy that more or less started to put all of this, what appears to be mumbo-jumbo, hocus-pocus kind of superstitious magic, and started to give it real live, rational, psychological explanations, foundation and stuff. And he established sort of a school of magic that many serious practitioners of magic today are involved in and follow, me included.
But doesn't the concept of magic go back way, way, way back? You know, I mean, just off the top of my head, I think of the alchemists, you know, back in the 14, 15, 16, 1700s. But I'm sure that there were traditions. Well, I mean, I know that there were ritual traditions that happened, deep into antiquity that we find in indigenous cultures. I mean, aren't we kind of talking about the same thing except, brought more into modern times?
That's exactly what we're doing. Oh. And the form, the art form that magic takes today, are modern practitioners of magic. It's gone through all sorts of new improvements and things over the years, but basically it's more or less the same as was practiced in Sumeria, ancient Babylon, then Egypt, then Greece, and the Greek Hermeticists, the Hebrew Kabbalists. Most magicians today study the Hermeticists. They're familiar with Hermetic sciences such as astrology and such, but that's just sort of a side interest to a magician's real focus, which is gaining enlightenment and doing it in a way that is sort of self-induced. Magic, the purpose of magic is self-induced illumination.
Okay, I'm going to change focus here because there's someone in the chat room who asked in the last hour this question, and they're asking it again, but you seem like a better person to ask. And I don't really know what it means, so I'm just going to ask you. And they were so nice because they hyphenated the word so I could pronounce it. And so this is from Analog Hall. And the question is, what do you think of grimoires like the Necronomicon? Do you believe that the Necronomicon is fakery? Now, I don't know what grimoires or Necronomicons are. And so if you know what those are, and do you believe in them, please share with us.
Well, a grimoire is simply a magical book, a book of magical practices. It's like a grimoire is like a magical cookbook, a magician's cookbook kind of thing. And there are very many famous historic grimoires, like the thing that's called the Megaton, which is really 5 books dating back to about 1300. And one of the most famous grimoires from the Megaton is called the Lesser Key of Solomon. And
I was going to ask you about that. I've heard of that one, but I didn't know it was a grimoire.
well, I've written 2 books that are commentaries on the Lesser Key of Solomon, because I just have too much time on my hands. So, but be that as it may,
You're just not doing enough rituals.
I'm probably doing too many.
I was going to say something, but I'm just going to not.
Well, it's okay. I'm 67.
Well, no, I was going to say, I'm sure your wife has a list of rituals she'd be happy if you took care of.
Yes, honeydews. So, I've been married 49 years, so I gotta walk very carefully. So, but anyway, the grimoire that she mentions was invented in the mind of the science fiction or horror writer H.P. Lovecraft in the mid-20s. He made up a series of stories that feature the book that he calls the Necronomicon as one of the items in his story, and it's supposed to be a wild ancient book by the mad Arab. I forget the mad Arab's name, but it was a wild and crazy guy, and anybody that reads the book goes mad. And the book is supposedly so powerful that it gives somebody the key to unlock a pre-creational dimension that's filled with monsters and things that just like to eat souls and stuff like. It's really, really good, scary horror. I mean, just read it in the morning. Don't read it before you go to bed. H.P. Lovecraft is marvelous. He's wonderful. He's brilliant, but he's fiction. And the Necronomicon is fiction. But back in the 70s, a couple of friends of mine, well, somebody I know and a couple of people that I don't know got together, and they were pretty knowledgeable magicians themselves, and they thought, why don't we give the world a real Necronomicon? Why don't we more or less just make one up and see if we can get it published? And that's exactly what they did. Now, that being said, the Necronomicon that they came up with is a pretty damn good book. It's a pretty damn good grimoire, okay? Everybody's grimoire, the Lesser Key of Solomon, the Greater Key of Solomon, all of the old ancient texts were somebody's made up Necronomicon, okay? So they're just old, okay? So the answer to her question is both a yes and a no. Yes, it's phony, okay? But no, it's a perfectly good grimoire. And if you want to use that as the basis for your magical it's just as good as anything.
Now you know. Now you know.
Now it can be told.
When we talk about magic, how does it differ? And I'm going to throw out a couple of different things from something like Wicca or even a New Age type spirituality.
Well, it's pretty much the same thing, only with a little bit different clothes, with a little bit different costumes. You could say that ceremonial magic is a little bit more scholarly. It's a little bit more snooty. It's a little bit more And basically, that's the whole secret of magic right there.
That's right. Lon, in your book, I was reading that you suggest that people should, and I put this in quotes, do stuff. Why is it important to participate in doing ritual magic? Can't you just become a magician from reading a book or watching a YouTube video?
Well, I suppose theoretically, somebody is just so ripe for illumination that all they have to do is read a book or suck a cough drop, and it happens. But what I'm more or less talking about life in general. That it's fine to read about stuff, and it's fine to theorize and argue with your friends about the finer points of comic books or the finer points of video games or the finer points of magic or Kabbalah. But I mean, why are you doing it? Yeah, you're doing this so you can have a life. Okay, you don't make this stuff your life. You have a life that hopefully stuff like this helps you with. So my point was it's not thinking it, it's not pretending it, it's not you just get out and do it. And the point is, if you don't do it because you're afraid it's going to blow up in your face, or you're afraid you're going to get possessed or something else, I've been doing magic, for way over 40 years, and I've had magic things fail. I've had things blow up in my face. I lived through everything. Okay, it's no big thing. But if you don't dare, you'll never succeed. So it's better to do something and fail than to not do something at all. And that's just true in life as much as it is in magic.
It's like the lotto. Anyway, but you mentioned, worrying about getting possessed, and I don't know if this is the topic you speak on, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. There has been a rise, and I'm going to say in the last 10 years, of people either saying they're possessed, saying their houses are haunted, and stuff like that. Through doing the magic that you ascribe, or calling spirits, are you opening the door to getting an entity attached to you? I mean, people say don't play with a tarot or a Ouija board, which I have my own commentary, but I mean, could you be opening a door to a negative entity?
Well, you're opening a door to influences that you may or may not want to open a door to. You don't do magic experimentally. Okay, it's not an experiment. You do it for a purpose. And this whole idea of doing some kind of a magic ceremony and then something comes into the house or something, it's coming into you because you're already scared. You've opened the door with your own fear. And one of the advantages of magic is sometimes it causes you to come face to face, to confront your own fears and your own insecurities. The practice of magic sometimes draws that out of you. And can't you see the metaphor of your own fears, coming to face with your own fears by doing something and then something scary happening? Something scary that doesn't really hurt you, something scary that doesn't actually harm you. Okay, you're actually dealing with with forces that are ultimately you anyway.
Okay, so it doesn't sound. So I guess you would just need to be prepared and recognize responsible for the things that you're doing when you enter into that.
There, yeah, exactly. And I tell people, and I'm only half joking when I say it's better to be possessed by a spirit temporarily than it is to be ignored by one. Okay, especially if you want to know what it is that this spirit means in your life. In a sense, every spirit, every angel, every demon, in literature and in your own ideas of heaven and hell are ultimately your own responsibility. They're your own things. There is no outside of yourself in a very, very real way. And so if something is freaking you out and it's not coming from someplace outside of you, ultimately it has come from within you. So that and that's generally where you need to deal with that, and that's what certain techniques of magic are meant to do. You try to trap those negative qualities of yourself into a triangle. You redirect them. You give them new orders. You give them new marching orders. You tell them, "I'm sorry. I know you got a lot of power in my life, but if you're not working for me, you're working against me. So either you're going to have to get on my team, or you're going to have to get out of here." And
then do you put them in those little ceramic jars with the corks that you can get at like craft fairs that say like Bad Hair Day, and then you can put them on the shelf?
You can for a while, I tell you.
And then you can like give them to other people. Here, have this bad energy.
Well, the thing is, it's more or less your bad energy. So once it leaves your hand, you're not going to get anybody else in trouble, unless, of course, they want to get themselves in trouble.
Right. Wouldn't that be fun? Hey, we have another question, unrelated question, but question from the chat room, and this is from Neutron.
Love the name.
And so the question is, and this is a Kabbalah question, in relation of the tarot cards with the paths of the Tree of Life, what cards do you believe would represent the paths connecting the hidden Sephiroth of Doth to the other Sephiroths? And he even spelled them right. He
spelled them right, and it's a super good question. And he knows ultimately there's not a one satisfactory Ruachian. There's another word. He'll probably know what that means. There's no single Ruachian, R-U-A, so R-A-U-C-H, answer to it. The period that the place that he's talking about is an area on this marvelous diagram called the Tree of Life. That is between the number 4 on the Tree of Life and the number 3 on the Tree of Life, and it's 1, 2, and 3 more or less represents the ideal singularity of Godhead, and everything else is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 more or less represents what we can wrap our meat brains around concerning creation. And he's asking what tarot card would probably be best to represent that non-existent path between number 4 and number 3, between the ideal and the actual. And the closest thing I could come to as an answer, and I know he's going to think this is a cliche, but it would be the Fool card itself, because in a sense the Fool card is the most transcendent and most universal card of all of them. It's the one that stands for it's the number 0 tarot card, and it more or less stands for the supreme deity that we couldn't possibly wrap our understanding around. So,
all right, so I have a follow-up question for you. But
okay.
isn't Doth the elevated state of temperate? And if it is the elevated state, and I probably didn't say that right, of temperate, wouldn't there be, and I'm trying to count how many paths going into it, so wouldn't there be multiple cards that would come out of it, since all the Sephiroth combine, well, minus, the first one.
Well, yeah, you could certainly look at it that way, and you could certainly draw a beautiful diagram showing that. Okay, and the diagram would probably have elegant symmetry to it, and
well, of course,
and if Neutron is wrapping his Ruakian brain around that and understanding it, and it's doing something for him, then he has stumbled on his own illuminatory revelation. The point is, Da'ath is like a vacuum between the actual and the ideal. And to dissect and describe the mechanics of a vacuum could take on infinite designs. So the design that he has latched on is one that he can understand, and he can even carry on a real good discussion about with other Kabbalists. But it may not be the be-all and end-all of the dissection of a vacuum. And so it's a discussion that you shouldn't get into an argument in a bar over the nature of Da'ath, because the conversation will never end.
But those are the kind of conversations I love. And that wasn't his question, that was my question.
Okay.
No, I studied the Kabbalah for years.
Okay.
Except I have no phonics skills, so I just kind of make up my own names.
Well, yeah, and you did really well. And if you're thinking of Da'ath as some kind of an elevation of Kether, it certainly is in a linear diagram, because it's just it's that big blank area that the path of Gimel occupies at the moment. But the idea that Tifereth itself is just a complete absorption of 10987 and 4 and 5. Okay, each of the Sephirah, as you climb the tree of life, eats the Sephirah below it. Imagine these are 10 levels of consciousness, and as you move your consciousness of the low, slow number 10, and you raise your consciousness like you take a magic pill, and you all of a sudden you get high, and you realize the level of consciousness of number 10. When you're number 9, when you're the consciousness of number 9, you've already eaten, you've already absorbed number 10. And when you raise your consciousness to number 8, you absorb what used to be 10 and 9, and you bring it with you all the way up the tree of life. That's why by the time you get to number 4, you've absorbed the entire macrocosm. Your consciousness is absolutely the same as what the Hebrews called Yod He Vav He, what the Greeks called Zeus, what the Romans called Jupiter. You've absorbed that. You've got the consciousness of the king of the gods, and that's still not the highest thing. You even have to give that up to move to number 3. And the path that's the little path that you have to tread as you move from 4 to 3 is where that doth is. It's the looking glass that you walk through, like Alice through the looking glass. where the flat reflection of the not you becomes the big three-dimensional real image of the real you. It's like when you go into the bathroom in the morning and you wave at yourself in the mirror. Okay, it looks like you've given that image of yourself life. It moves around, it smiles, it waves at you. But compared to you, compared to the flesh and blood you, it's really just flat. Now imagine moving through the looking glass of the tree of life from those levels of consciousness. We would move into another dimension that would make this dimension seem as unreal as that flat image of us in the mirror. And so all that stuff gets kind of, you get...
it makes your brain spin because you have to think about it, and then it's like, okay, well, what does that mean? And then you have to feel into it to see if you can actually experience it on a body level, and it can keep you busy for hours and hours and hours and hours of fun.
Yes, that's why.
All right, fun for weird people like you and me, but fun nonetheless.
That's why every once in a while you got to watch TV.
This is true.
I recommend PBS.
Oh, unless you have Netflix and then you just watch.
Yes.
Oh, this movie has 1 star. Oh, wait, this movie has 1 star.
I like those.
Like, in the work that you've done, in the magic ritual that you've done, have you had magic happen after performing a ritual?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I mean, could you give an example? That would be like my question.
Well, you do magic and then live the rest of your life. I mean,
so it's not like you do magic because you want a new car, and I'm just being really facetious here. And, the next day someone says, hey, you want this car, or you win the lottery, but it's the scratch off is for a new car.
Yeah,
it's not.
It's a fair question, and the answer is yes. My first evocation of a spirit, way back in like 1975 or 76. My life was just absolute crap, and I had just left a very promising career in music, and I didn't really have any skills. I'd been a musician for 14 years, and I didn't have any work skills or anything. And my little family was getting hungrier and hungrier and hungrier. And but I was interested in this magic stuff, and was lucky enough to meet old magicians who had lived and worked with Crowley, and I got a hold of that Grimoire, the Lesser Key of Solomon, and I thought, I should whip up one of these demons to help turn my life around. And I didn't have a car. And in Southern California, you got to have a car. You just got to. You can't get a job. You can't go to a job. You can't. And So I did it. I tell this story in my book, My Life with the Spirits. So if I get to plug a book on your show, I'll plug My Life with the Spirits.
My Life with the Spirits, okay. Amazon.com. Okay.
There you go. And so I did. And it's a very interesting. The evocation was an absolute comedy of errors, and it's hilarious what happened. I was just a total klutz, and but I went through the whole thing, and in doing so, I figured out exactly what these spirits are, what it's all about, and. But I gave the spirit 1 hour. I gave the spirit 1 hour to turn my life around. to fix this, to pay I needed the rent paid a week from Friday. Turn my life around. Do whatever you have to do without hurting me, my family, my friends, or the fragile ecosystem, but do it. And within 20 minutes of me banishing and tearing down my temple, an old friend of ours drove up in the worst car from hell that you've ever seen in your life, a smoky old jalopy, and he threw the keys on the couch and said, "The car is yours. Now drive me back to Long Beach. I got to go back to Guatemala." Okay, it wasn't even an hour. It was 20 minutes. Anyway, on the way home, in that awful, awful smoky car from hell, I looked in the ashtray and there was about 30 cents. I bought a newspaper on the way home and a candy bar. And
for 30 cents.
We're talking 1960s or 1975 here.
I think you need to bring, up the dates.
Yeah. But anyway, I bought a newspaper, and with that newspaper, I circled 2 jobs for job openings that I can now reach in my new fancy car. And the next day I applied at all 4 of those, and the first one hired me. I've been gainfully employed ever since that day. And not only that, but the company that hired me paid every Friday. And so I even got the deadline of being able to pay the rent that upcoming Friday. Now, it sounds like, gee, that's just normal shit. Oh, excuse me. That's just normal things that happen. But magic is normal things that happen. It can't manifest in any other way. There is no such thing as abnormal. Okay? It's just normal that we can't understand. And we can argue that my friend was already on his way to deliver that car to me even before I started the ceremony. Doesn't matter. In magic, space and time do not carry the same impact as they do in this very, very limited dimension. And there's no way to prove that Bob would have delivered me that car had I not done it. There's no way to disprove it, because that's the way reality runs. And so, yes, absolutely. I'm sitting here right now because of the result of a very, very botched magical operation with the intent of turning my life completely around. And
but maybe the ritual part didn't work that great, or wasn't as smooth as you thought it should have been. But I'll bet your intention was pure and powerful, that it did work.
That's right. And gee, didn't that teach us a lot about what magic really is? If you can tap that pure intent, if you can tap it, and the exercise, the going through the motions of a ritual of some kind, whether it be the beautiful cultural rituals of Shinto in Japan, or whether it's the wild and crazy Solomonic magic of Europe. It's that pure intent that you're doing the magic to tap into.
Is doing the ritual important?
It is if you make it important. Okay. I am probably the laziest of the ceremonial magicians that I know. I know guys and women that have all the best clothes, the silk, they've sewn it with their own hands, and they've got the best magic tools and toys in the world, and part of their art form works because they want it that way. To them, the magic won't work unless they do it exactly as the book that was written in 1403. Okay? And that's fine. That's fine, and it does. But the point is, I don't need that. I'm so lazy, or I'm so simple-minded that I can tap into it a whole lot funkier. My circle now is I've had all the goodies. I've had all the toys, and now when I operate, I just use a simple silk, very thin silk cord that I just lay around me as a circle, and I just tape out the triangle, and I do stuff with paper. If you can't make a magic ring out of paper, you can't make it out of gold. Okay, you can't make your magic tools out of paper and wood. You're never going to be able to make it out of silver and copper and diamonds. Okay.
But I hear what you're saying. Like last summer, we were working on this garden, and we moved into a new place, and the backyard was just, I'm going to say rock. And in this rock were a bunch of other rocks. And so I had this like piece of screen that we put onto this frame, and I felt like an archaeologist because we were like dumping the dirt on there, and I'm rubbing it through the screen to pull the other rocks out of this hard clay dirt. Okay. Well, my boyfriend kept going, well, use the shovel. And he'd come over and use the shovel. I'm like, go away. Because I had to like commune with the dirt, and I had to like be one with the dirt, and like send out that good mojo energy, like grow. So
well,
kind of like that, I would think. That's what it sounded like.
That's exactly what it is.
Hey, I do magic.
Yes. Now, my wife is the greatest magician that I know, and she's not a technical magician at all. But, she walks out into the garden, and it's like a Disney film. Things grow all around her. It's like the birds fly around her like Snow White, okay? She is just absolutely... 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just a magical being in and of herself. Her intent ever be focused, I'm in deep doo-doo. So,
do you guys do ritual together? Do you combine your energy into creating something else, something new for your future, your combined future or whatever?
Sure. Well, we started with our son was born in 19...
Yeah. I was going to say, well, not counting kids.
Well, that's truly a big one. No, together we do and have done since like 1979. We do the Gnostic Mass, which is a very beautiful ceremony that's done primarily with a priest and priestess. And it's a public ceremony. You could take your grandmother to it, And so we've done that, and we do seminars, like all day seminars on this.
Well, and you're going to be speaking at the Paradigm Symposium in October, correct?
Correct. Yes.
And we're going to get to hang out.
We'll hang out. Yes.
We'll hang out. We can talk Kabbalah and Tree of Life.
Very good.
With my bad phonics.
Yes. We can elevate artiferous.
Yeah. Elevate our death. Well, yeah, that's true. Never mind. Anyway, do you know what you're going to be speaking on there?
I should.
Have you decided yet?
I should, but I'm not quite sure what my title is. But I've got a file here that I've started on it.
You'll be speaking on something good.
It will be something good, and I'll try not to behave myself. And but I speak next week at the OTO convention in Austin, and I play this coming Sunday at the Viper Room. So part of my music career is taking off. So.
And so if people want to get your books, is it best to send them to like Amazon, or do you have them on your webpage, that kind of thing?
Oh, I got them on my webpage, but if they go to Amazon, they'll eventually get to all my music and all my songs and my books and everything else, because my CDs are sold on Amazon but I'm on Spotify and iTunes and Pandora and the CD Baby and stuff. So
they're telling me that the music is gonna come up.
Oh, good.
So I'm gonna have to say goodbye or au revoir. That's French, right? Okay.
Yes. Good. Au revoir. We'll see you in Minneapolis.
I'll see you in October at the Paradigm Symposium, paradigmsymposium.com. I don't know. Look it up, October 1st through 4th. Okay. Bye, Lon Milo.
Bye. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on. That's Lon Milo Duquette. The book we sort of talked about was Homemade Magic. His webpage is Lon Duquette. Check that out for all of his books, or go to the Paradigm Symposium. And then next week, we are going to be speaking to Peter Robbins about deliberate deception, UFO, and disinformation. Until next week, I'm Dr. Rita Louise. This is Just Energy Radio. Be blessed.
Join host Dr. Rita Louise each week at this time for Just Energy Radio.